It is.
Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Becky. I work for the Good Times Project in Seattle, and I'll be the host for today's session. I'm pleased to introduce Denise and Edith from Camp Sunshine in Atlanta. They'll be the speakers for our session on-demand cabin chat, staying connected to camp. So hopefully everyone is in the session that they meant to attend. Denise is a program director at Camp Sunshine. She is responsible for Remember the Sunshine programs, young adult programs, and scholarships, and special teen programming, and supports summer camp and the teen retreat. She was diagnosed when she was 18 years old and is a young adult survivor of cancer, woo woo. She started her days at Camp Sunshine as a counselor in training in 1988 and then as a volunteer counselor for 10 years before formally joining the Camp Sunshine staff. Edith is also a program director at Camp Sunshine. She is responsible for summer camp and teen retreats and supports Remember the Sunshine programs. Edith has been a part of the Camp Sunshine family since she attended the very first camp as a camper in 1983. Prior to joining the staff, Edith was a longtime volunteer serving as camp nurse and a cabin counselor. It seems to be a common theme that people go from camper or staff and then paid. That's my story as well. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, feel free to either unmute yourself and just say, hey, sorry to interrupt, I have a question, or you can pop that in the chat and I will be monitoring that. And then before we get started, I wanted to just give a quick reminder about the Future of Camp panel discussion this afternoon. It's with Bob Ditter, Dr. Raffi, Chris Fox, and Travis Allison. It's gonna be really awesome. It's 5 p.m. Eastern time. So really encouraging folks to tune into that. So with all of that said, I will hand it over to Denise and Edith.
Thank you. We're gonna start our screen sharing. Just one moment. All right, welcome. We're excited to be here. I'm Edith and Denise is right here with me. And we are going to talk about becoming a great virtual camp counselor. I'll just give you all a little background about Camp Sunshine. We're in Atlanta and this was our 38th year summer at camp, and it was virtual. And we ran 2 weeks of our regular summer camp, what we would typically do, and we tried to stay close to our mission, vision, and values. So we picked the things that were most important is what we ended up doing. And of course, cabin chats, that connection is very important. So we ran our first week with teens from 13 to 18-year-olds, and our second week was our junior campers, and they are 7 to 12-year-olds. And we had our usual staff. We did not have any trouble getting our staff this year. Everybody was clamoring to help us. So we probably had too much staff, something we learned. We used Zoom as our platform, and we had a whole IT team that helped us coordinate. We were very thankful. We had 3 interns to help us run all of our platforms and things we need to do. So we were very fortunate in that respect, and that really helped us out. And after reassessing from the year, of camp, we decided we needed to do a little more training this fall with our counselors. So this that we're going to share with y'all today is the training that we've done this fall to try to help our counselors gear up some more. We did do training prior to camp, several different trainings about Zoom and then also about virtual, and you'll see that in our explanation, but this is just more in depth to try to help them because we are the rest of the year going virtual. So what we love about camp. All right, we're all camp people, right? So in your chat, or if you want to unmute yourselves, tell us what you love about camp. Give us some ideas. I can start out. I know ours is connections, right? Yep, look, there it is. Do we have any more? Yep, everybody's about the connections. And this is what our picture explains, right? Community, fun, Yep, joy, games, and riddles. It's the place that they can just be kids, right? Teens and kids, smiles, and everybody understands what they're going through. Lack of inhibitions, right? New perspectives. Those are all great. And those are all the things that we feel like that what we love about camp too. But go ahead, Denise.
Sorry, I can't see.
Sorry. I know that's why I was telling you.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Trying new things. Those are all great. And that's exactly where we're going. And we talked to our staff about that. What do we miss and how it's different with virtual? So the challenges of our virtual programs for staff and family. If y'all want to unmute or put it in the chat, what do y'all see as some of the challenges? Can y'all, so to us, technology issues, that's right. And to us, we also felt like getting the info from the parents to the campers, right? Too much screen time, Zoom fatigue, figuring out how not to talk over others, connections, again, language barriers, participations, Zoom fatigue, as everybody talks about, right? And those are all some of the things. A lot of our staff that volunteer are older, so a lot of their issues are the technical issues. We worked with them a lot prior to camp. And the campers, I think, caught on much quicker. We thought we would have more issues than we did. The campers were all pros because they had been going to school. Getting the schedule right, the last minute, how to adapt technology, that's right. So yes, we were on the same page as what you're talking about. Getting the schedule right, I'm making sure I read them all. Yep, same things. And for campers, some of the things that we love are hard to communicate, those connections and not being in person. Like you said, the hugs, some people said, you know, it's that connection piece. Okay, Denise, you can go ahead.
So when we started planning all of this, the things that we wanted to keep in mind, and for our campers, this is one of our 2020 graduates, that whatever is special at camp only exists in the hearts, words, and deeds of our campers and staff who live it. And those aren't tied to any geographic location. And I think that was one of the most important things. It's about camp and at camp, but really it's the spirit of camp. And camp's about learning to do hard things. The true impact has never been what to do at camp, but rather than what you take with you and how that impacts the world outside of camp. So we wanted to make sure that we were still making that impact and that they were still carrying it outside of camp, and especially for our seniors that were getting ready to leave, making sure they still had a successful last year of summer camp.
And then our in-person cabin chat description, we just wanted to give you all that description. This is what is in our staff manual. We left it in the staff manual so they could see the difference and the similarities. So this is our description, which is probably typical for yours too. They happen organically more. Usually they're at the end of the day or maybe at rest time after they've come back. In our schedule, in-person camp, they can come back and it just happens. But the counselors do have to have some ideas or a plan, sort of a layout of what they might want to do. But y'all can read those. And these are also all in our slides that are available. You don't have to take a million notes. I should have said that in the beginning. Okay.
So then these are just some of our in-person cabin chat topics that we include in our staff manual, just to get some things started so people have ideas if they've never been a cabin counselor, never led a cabin chat, just to get the conversation going. So I'm sure most of them, everyone has had, but we left those in there for them. And if there's not any on there that you guys use, share those as well if you'd like to. So this is our virtual cabin chat description in the staff manual. It's very similar to our in-person chat. Again, we just wanted to make sure that our staff was very clear in what our expectations were for cabin chat. And the biggest change in it was, even though that you're not sitting in a circle with your campers, your virtual cabin can be a great place to encourage and foster friendships, as well as create unity among the group. We wanted the cabin chats, again, to be limited just the campers and the counselors that were assigned to specific chat rooms. And we wanted them, what's said in the cabin, to stay in the cabin just as usual. It's all confidential with each other, not to share with other campers and counselors. They were all given the choice to share or not to share. Campers should be allowed to express themselves freely without interruption from anyone else, just as in regular cabin chat. One of the things we talked about is determining an order in which it was creative to decide whose turn it was to speak. Sometimes in person, it's much easier with having, you know, a talking stick or a ball to throw or something. So just having them realize to have some type of vehicle to choose who's going to speak. Counselors should try not to dominate or share detail of their own experience, but wanted to make sure they still, you know, were answering honestly when it was their turn. It was important not to try to make discussion on a deeper or more meaningful tone. We let the campers guide the discussion. We wanted to make sure that they were listening and that they were each going into cabin chat with a plan in order to keep the chat on track, so that they could accomplish all that they wanted to in the amount of time that they had. We did put a time limit on it. And we wanted it to begin with like a catch up, followed by a cabin or team building activity if they wanted to, and then finally a chat. And included in this section are cabin chat games and topics for use.
And we did, during the week, we did 3 cabin chats. We started our week with an opening on Sunday and cabin chats. And then we did it again on Wednesday evening, Sunday evening, Wednesday evening, and Friday afternoon, mid-morning. We did that earlier. And we were, now looking back, we might have added another day to that, but we could not accommodate staff at that point. I know somebody mentioned about recruiting staff, and we were worried about that too, about during the daytime, because people were working and doing, because we weren't on screen all day, so they could work and still volunteer. And we were worried about that too. Hindsight 2020, I think we would have definitely added another day for the teens, if not every day. And the teens also couldn't always attend either. Their schedules, some of them were working, as it was in June, so we're in Georgia, and they had eased up, and we did it for an hour, but we had eased up on the lockdown, so some of the teens were going back to work. So when we had those during the day, not as many usually could attend. So lessons learned. You might, I think next year we would probably try to talk to the teens more. We were just trying to plan quickly when we decided in April to pivot to virtual. We did a solid hour for each cabin chat. Some of them did go over. So they had 3 hours of cabin chats.
And then there's a question in the chat, just in general, how many days and hours did you do for virtual camp, not just the cabin chats, I believe?
We did 3, Denise, correct me if I'm wrong. We did every morning, we did a flag raising and announcements that were live, but then they were recorded. We had a virtual library with recordings. So when we weren't live, if they wanted to do we also sent our Camp in the Box, and our Camp in the Box had activities tied to what were in the library also. during the teen week, we did live activities such as that consisted of yoga. We did chalk art. You saw the example of that we sent the chalk, we did it live, but then we also, the juniors could look at the video later. There were videos so they could do more later. Denise, how many hours was it? I guess it was, it was
a total of 4 hours a day, Monday through Thursday. Sunday, we just had the opening ceremony and a cabin chat that evening. So that was just about an hour and 30 minutes. And then on Friday, we just had a cabin chat and a closing ceremony. So that was about the same, about an hour and 35 minutes, 40 minutes. And then the rest was about 4 hours each day. And then with the option of a video library that they could choose to look at during their free time.
Hopefully that answered your question. If you want more details, just ask us. So this is our virtual cabin chat description that's in the staff manual, that we had our rules, and it was some of what Denise talked about starting and ending on time, speaking one at a time. And typical in-person cabin chats, we would have this posted somewhere in the cabins where they could see it. So we asked the counselors to remind them at every session, show this, maybe put it in the chat box so they could see it, but go over it with them for the rules so that the expectations were set and everybody was on the same page. And we did not have any issues as we moved towards the end. We did have our a counselor available if we would have issues during the virtual cabin chats, and we did not, thankfully. So, but we did have somebody ready to intervene if needed. And these are some of the cabin chat topics, very similar to what you would do in person. I think more of them, we encourage them to talk more about what was going on recently, you know, what activities they were able to do if they came to the activities during the day, that interaction, and keeping them connected, and just let the conversation go. But these are some good starters. I am thankful for the changes that cancer has made in my life. We did talk about the cabin chats were more difficult to go deeper. I think that was one of the main difficulties versus organic in-person cabin chats, where they really start talking about their cancer diagnosis just on their own, and they move through that conversation without having to be facilitated as much. Yes, there is facilitation, but not started. So I know they did not go as deep as they normally do. If the group happened to know each other. I know there was a question. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're going to talk about kind of the technological piece later, but someone was wondering if you assigned specific breakout rooms, like everyone joined at the same time, or if it was sessions folks had to tune into on their own.
Yes, it was in our schedule. The cabin chats were at specific times. It was via Zoom. We had already scheduled the cabins with the particular participants. So each participant had their own Zoom, but that's why we had our IT team, was to coordinate all that for us. And they sent it out where daily, so they didn't have to look for all those Zooms. They would get a nice, concise thing every morning. And if we had glitches, because there were glitches, if something happened or we had to change a Zoom link or something was wrong, then the IT team could just send it out to everybody. So that was very helpful. Denise, was there anything else on that I left out?
Yeah, the one thing that we did do from the beginning when we made this switch is we decided that we would have the kids, we still wanted to make sure that they had an option for choice, which so many choices being taken away, that they had a choice. So they had the choice to sign up for their activities for the entire week. So they got to an email with a schedule and those links are what populated into their daily schedule that Edith mentioned that was sent out by our IT team. So they could choose to sign up for Cabin Chat or not, and receive their own links, but gave them the opportunity to decide if they wanted to do it or not wanted to do it. And
so some of them might do only one activity. Maybe they only went to Cabin Chats. They did no activities, or they did all the activities. They could do whatever they wanted to. So
does that answer the question?
Hopefully.
Okay.
I saw a thumbs up from Sarah.
Okay,
okay, thank you. So now that we had the, and here are some examples of some of the games. And I know this was mentioned, some of these were mentioned yesterday, the rock, paper, scissors tournament. I'm sure y'all have done all of these. These are not any new, but we just decided to put them in here. We have 2 slides of this or that, virtual show and tell, the count to 20 challenge. Denise, you want to show the next one, and then we'll, MJ after this one, then we'll go to the breakout rooms. The Valley of the Green Glass Door, that's a popular one. I know the Wombat, the Rose and Thorn. So these are all available. They might give you some more ideas. We always, as we get in, we'll show you, we encourage our counselors to have a good game plan. But if y'all want to share, we now want to go into our breakout rooms. MJ is going to do that for us. But in the breakout rooms, we'll give you about 5 minutes just to share some virtual Cabin Chat topics with each other that you think that maybe worked for you, or things that you think might be good. Y'all can practice a little bit, see what you think, and we'll come back together and then we'll discuss that.
Let me hang tight real quick.
Okay.
Okay. Breakout rooms are so fun. I bet we can't wait to go in them.
They are. So you can introduce yourself. If you want to go over the rules quick, you can. Somebody could lead. You could have one person be the counselor, or you can just talk about the Cabin Chat topics. Some of y'all, I'm sure, ran virtual camps and probably have some great ideas that we probably need to hear. And we left it up to our counselors to, these were just starting points. They could do whatever they want to. And some of them went way crazy, had really in-depth ideas, topics, games. Some people, you know, were winging it more, and they all went well. It just depended on the group of kids, if they wanted to talk or not talk. Sometimes it was more adults talking, but everybody had some type of connection.
All right, if we are ready, I'll go ahead and open the rooms.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, that took a little longer. I was trying to avoid the 4 of us getting shoved into rooms and getting lost.
It's okay. Thank you.
That's okay. And I can't see anything when I'm sharing my screen now. So I was trying, and I didn't want to change a setting because I didn't want to mess anything up.
If there's anything that you want to change right now while they're in those rooms.
Yeah, that's what I was looking to see if I can. I'm sharing my screen just so I can see.
So there's a way in Zoom to share just a specific program instead of anything you see on your screen. So if you start a new screen share and you just select, like if it's open in a PowerPoint, you can just share the PowerPoint. And then if you open things in front of it, that doesn't get shared out to the participants.
That is so
yeah, that's what I was trying to. Let's see, let me go back. It took me. Okay.
No, MJ, I just kept talking. Sorry. I was like, I'll just keep talking.
No, and that worked out completely. Well, and like I said too, I was like, the worst thing I want, like, it would not have been the end of the world, but I was like,
Well, and we did it 2 slides later, so I was like, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
It's all good. I was keeping tallies with it, and then I was like, question mark? But it's all good. It's how camp runs.
That's right.
And I can broadcast a message to all. So whenever you kind of want to do like a minute wrap up reminder, I can send that out as well.
Okay. I honestly didn't look. What time did they go out? I didn't look to see.
About 12:22. So it's been about 3
22.
minutes.
Okay. Yeah. The 1 minute warning will be good when it gets to
whatever time zone you're in.
Yeah.
Do you want me to send that out now or?
Let's wait.
Okay. Sounds good.
We might give them 1 extra minute. It probably took them a second to get in there.
Yeah.
What do you
The time
think?
in breakout rooms always goes so fast.
I know. You never get through whatever you're supposed to do.
But it's
I
always.
think they're fun though, no matter what.
Oh, I think they're so fun. I have great fun and fear when I see the 60 seconds because I'm like, I have to tell you every single thought of mine in the next 60 seconds before this leaves. I'm that person.
Okay, do we need to do anything else from y'all's perspective? Is it okay? They can hear it, like everything seems okay. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely, we're doing good. Becky, while I have y'all, will you help me facilitate just taking one of those like screenshot photos at the end of this? Last time I did it, I was like, before we do the survey, if everybody could just wave, but try and make some memories.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to just I'll tell people to wave and then you can just tell me once you got it.
Sounds good.
It was funny in one of the sessions I was in yesterday, Don came in to take a screenshot and we're all sitting there waving. He goes, "Oh, I got it a while ago, but I'm just enjoying watching you all wave and smile."
Sounds like it's Don. I was like,
you want to send the minute warning?
Yep.
You want to send the minute warning?
Don is a goof.
Give him a couple extra minutes.
Oh, you know what, Edith? We just got to get back 1 slide, I think. The goals, right?
The goals, yeah. The goals should be next.
There. Okay.
Perfect. It's pouring here. Raining.
It is here too now.
Just overcast for me. Classic Seattle.
Classic.
Is that where you are, Becky?
Yeah.
It's early for you.
Where are you?
I'm in Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, you ready for me to go ahead and close the rooms?
Yep.
All right. Okay, well, I guess now they have 60 seconds. That's on me.
Yeah, that's okay.
They'll trickle in.
I was kicked out of mine, actually. My phone died and I got
kicked out.
No. Yeah.
Well, welcome back. You're the first.
Welcome back, Heather.
Batteries.
Technology.
Yeah. Right before this, I spent about 30 seconds running around the room trying to find my charger. And I was like, I'm going to need it. And was like, maybe I'll just set up a tablet or something. And then it was like right next to where I set everything else down.
Yeah.
It was there. I just didn't.
Yeah. And then I had, during the first part, I had my 2 boys screaming at each other. So I'm glad I was on mute.
There you go. It's those kids and those dogs these days, man.
Yeah. My youngest child right here. So.
Cute.
No.
All right. Looks like everybody is back.
All right. So did y'all have some good discussion, I hope? Does anybody want to say something from a room that you found particularly helpful or you thought was very interesting? Something new you learned? Or no, that's fine either way.
We discussed in our room the idea of doing a virtual cabin chat before live camp, so that there's an opportunity, particularly for new campers and parents, to feel more comfortable about, in our case, getting on that bus and heading to camp for a week, and for the parents sending their child off. And what a great way for there to be some immediate familiarity before the kids even arrive at camp.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I like that. I'm writing that one down myself.
We had a very smart group.
There you go.
We were the L group, the L's.
The L's?
Yeah, I guess you did alphabetically, so we were all L's.
All L's. All right. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to share?
I kind of shared in our group about how we separated our cabin chats each night. So over at Okaizu, we ran 7 sessions, 3 days each session, and at the end of each night, we had questions kind of related to like quarantine and to our theme. So our theme was Wild Wild West on the World Wide Web. It's a mouthful. But we try to do some theme related questions. And since we were separated up in age groups, it's always nice to like make the questions a little more age appropriate. And then I shared with our group one of the questions that I use with our teens that was brought to me a few years back. And it's like just helping them expand their knowledge on like camp and like the future and like what they're going to be doing, and just like stepping out of their comfort zone. So like, if you guys like the question, it's if I weren't afraid, I would, and then you finish off that statement. And it just gets the campers like really connected and helps them like build bonds a lot in the teen years.
That's a great one. That does sound like that would really get conversation going for sure.
We had something similar. We had with our oldest teens, they did a cabin chat and we let them lead it, and a lot of them said that they were worried about quarantine and going to college next year and whether that was even going to happen and what are they going to do if they can't. So it wasn't so much more of, you know, what was my favorite thing we did today or something like that. It was more talking about when camp's over, what next? And we were able not to give advice, but just, I guess, be an ear and let them kind of talk to each other and talk it out. But we definitely got those questions too.
You were a safe space.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is what they need.
Yeah.
Which is what camp is, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
That's great. That's a good one.
One thing that I did a couple of times over the summer that I thought was really helpful was when kids were just first getting to know each other and just getting into the breakout rooms, like the first time in the first cabin chat, was having them go. I would tell them in the morning that this is what we're going to do in the afternoon so they could think about it all day. And it was going and getting an item from their house, something that meant something to them, and having them bring that back on screen and share like what they brought and why that meant something to them. So that got them, first of all, thinking about like what's important to me and what do I want to share with people. And then it was like they didn't have to share anything that was too personal if they didn't want to, but if they wanted to, that was an option and that was there. And then it was funny because the conversations that would spark from that, oh, well, you brought this video game on screen, I like to play this, and blah, 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 blah. And then it would spark this conversation. So that was one that I really, really liked.
That's a great idea. I know some of our staff also had them show sometime during the week, but I like that idea even better as a first time starter. Hey, remember to bring something to show and tell type of thing. That would definitely get the conversation and connections going, especially if you have a group of quiet campers. So that's great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Those were all great comments. Thank you. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the video myself so I can hear. I wrote down some notes, but so I can hear it. So we were trying to be organized for our counselors so that they realize that we were trying to be intentional in our programming that we picked, and especially for the cabin chats. So we did have goals that we would typically have in our in-person programming, and these are the goals for our virtual programming. And at the towards the end of our slides, we have the example of how they can meet these different goals, but it's to provide a fun and safe, exciting camping experience for all, to recognize and utilize individual strengths, to enhance and foster self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, to promote growth through self-discovery and expression. And I'm sure lots of y'all have very similar goals. To develop a sense of independence and interdependence, and to foster memorable friendships, create a nurturing community, and to respect the rights and dignities of all individuals, as many are from different geographic, religious, ethnic, gender, and racial backgrounds. And these, we pretty much left the same. The outcomes to be met were what we ended up changing to be able to meet them were different. Instead of, we'll show you at the end, but instead of having the in-person thing, it was a virtual thing to meet these.
So part of our preparation for our staff and our staff training, obviously we did all of that as well over Zoom. But one of the things that we talked a lot about with them is just preparation is key. And what they have in their virtual duffel bag is a little different than what they have going to camp, but you still need to have these things in there. So one of the biggest things is the willingness to change. Things that work in person don't always work virtually. And adaptation is key. And we found that out as we were doing things virtually, just getting ready for camp, that not all things work as we hope they will, but just being able to be flexible and to adapt. Practice, we talked about, you know, veteran counselors. We have a lot of veteran counselors that have been coming to camp for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And just making sure that even the most veteran counselors still knew they needed to practice because it was a new role for them. And patience. Patience was the biggest thing too for some of our volunteers. Is it's all new, and just being patient with us, patient with the kids, patient with their families, and patient with themselves to be successful. And then expectations. Your end result is going to be and feel different than it does in person. And I think that one of the biggest things in pivoting to these platforms are knowing that what you expect is going to be very different in person, because you really did what you don't know, you don't know. And so that was just really something we wanted to communicate very effectively, even to, you know, to the kids, to the parents, and to our staff. And so we tried to do that in our staff training, and we had a virtual orientation for our parents. We usually do a new camper orientation, and this time we did it for all of our campers, just to orient them into what we were going to be doing for the week and what their expectations were going to be for the week, and answer some questions for them. So just being really prepared on all fronts is really important.
And the practice that we had for our staff also involved allowing them to set up a Zoom room with our IT people and go and actually practice doing virtual cabin chats, and seeing their cabin chat counselors. And then we also had monitors in the room to have extra adults in there if we needed it in case something came up. So a lot of them took advantage of that and did it like the weekend prior to camp when it started. And I think that really helped them. They all gave us good feedback on that.
One thing that we learned with practicing is we did a gardening programming session, and he didn't practice ahead of time, and we found that when he went outside, we lost all internet connection, we lost all Wi-Fi.
Oh my gosh.
And that's something, if we had practiced ahead of time, we would have known and had a backup plan. So absolutely for your cabin chat, but I would also say with your activities to practice, because that was a whole fun mess that we had to fix on the fly.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a lot of adjustment for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
This is just an example. We made this up after camp, so we didn't have this before camp, but now we have this for cabin chats, and we made one up for activities also, for the activity people that are running the activities for practice, but just a short schedule to give them an outline, a plan, so that they will consciously think about, okay, you know, 5 minutes for the opening, the instructions, you know, the team building, sorry, I was looking at a different one. Team building activities, 20 minutes. The chat topics are 20 minutes, the backup plan, and any time fillers. Some people need it right in front of them. Other people are very good on the fly. And this was just to try to encourage them and give them more confidence in their ability, especially after running the first cabin chats. But now additionally, they should be more ready and be able to have a better plan.
And it gives them a good visual too. We thought to have something visual in front of you before you start to look at and refer back to. So this is our staff and volunteer conduct guidelines. And we really left these all the same, but did add some things to it. And the things that we added are highlighted. And so it was, we added, will not participate or tolerate from others the hazing, negative manipulation, or verbal or emotional cyberbullying or abuse from anyone participating in Camp Sunshine. Will report inappropriate behavior or outside personal and or virtual contact between campers and any other Camp Sunshine participants to the unit head or program director. And then in some of these things, we just added a word as virtual or cyberbullying, different things so that they realize it's an online platform, but still these things can happen just in a different way, just to kind of open it up so that they could see some of the things that could potentially happen, but we needed to make sure that they were covered. Reporting any inappropriate behavior of a person on the camper screen observed during a virtual session to the unit head or program director. You know, in case there was something in the background going on, for them to be aware of what's going on screen, not just theirs, but the campers. Staff and volunteer behavior. Do not encourage or allow campers to participate in harmful, negative, or emotionally destructive discussions or activities. So adding that discussion piece into it there. Do not participate in sexual activities or discussions or make apparent to others any romantic interest during the Camp Sunshine program. Oops, I am so sorry.
That's okay.
Will not allow Camp Sunshine program volunteers to be in your background or participate in sessions. This includes children, spouse, friends, pets, etc. Only registered and assigned staff to have permission to participate. So we wanted to make sure too that our volunteers realize that what goes on in their background that the campers can see, because sometimes it is hard to forget what's going on within your own background. So just to make sure that they're aware, so that it is, you know, still in a cabin chat, especially, that information is confidential and just for those who are participating. So they have a safe space to be. Let's see. Will not consume alcoholic beverages during your session. Will dress appropriately for each activity session. We asked that they not wear pajamas unless it was in line with what the program thing was, which we did have a pajama day. Doing that, be aware of your surroundings. A volunteer's virtual background should be appropriate, and just reminding them those things that I think everybody had been doing, but just reminding them for camp too. And so we did provide virtual backgrounds for staff or for campers to download that they could use on their Zoom screens. And it was photos of camp in places that were familiar to them. So too, it looked like they were at a familiar place that they knew, or for new campers to be able to see what a camp, you know, the fishing dock looked like. Appropriate use of camp photos as background is acceptable. So that's the one thing that we did. And then this is our internet social networking and blogging policy, and these are all exactly the same. And this is a document that our staff do read and sign while they're at camp, or first night of our staff training. So it was all familiar to them, again, except for those pieces that I highlighted in the previous slide. And then we are so fortunate within our volunteer population to have some great staff who are teachers who had been participating on Zoom with their students for a couple of months before camp started. So 2 of our teacher volunteers put together these helpful hints for Zoom sessions, which were really great. And we provided during our staff training and in our staff manual. And I'm sure most of you guys all know these, but we talked about having scheduled topics you need to cover written out beside you. Refer to your program worksheet and agenda that we provided, that we showed you. Have an outline, get online 10 minutes before time, just to ensure everything is working the way you want it to. There's no technical issues. Having a light source in front of you and not behind you. Having all your materials with you to start, turning your television off, your radio, phones, things like that aren't distracting. And then, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but you guys pretty much, I'm sure, know all of them during a Zoom, what to do during your structured time, muting your microphones unless you're speaking, reviewing the features of Zoom for everyone, making sure everybody knows how to change their name, and those type of things. And then use of chat box, and remembering to help your campers foster relationships among each other during this as well, and monitoring the conversations in the cabin chat. We had a lot of kids during all of our sessions and staff that used the chat box to talk back and forth to each other, which is really nice to see, and encouraging each other. And like in an arts and crafts session, they really used the chat box to encourage each other on how great of a job they were doing, and nice artwork, and not just for answering questions and things.
And then we did have this in our manual. We just thought we'd share it with you about troubleshooting, about what we had available. As I mentioned earlier, we had a child life specialist who was also a counselor on call, where they could call us or text us. They have both of our cell phone numbers. We were working at our office, so they could call us there. And if they had technical issues, we had a Fresh Desk ticket, which is a program that is free, so it is available to use, that our IT team put together, where they could just write in there what problems they were having, and an IT team person would contact them immediately. And that worked really well to figure out any technical issues, or if it was another issue too, they could also get in touch with them. We used Slack to work, which I heard mentioned in another, we used that amongst our IT team and all of our teams. So even when we were running a program, that was in the back of our screen, and we could see if we got any notifications that we needed to take care of. That was also very helpful. It's not mentioned on the slide, but it was very helpful. But we did have problems, as everyone will. I think we were more worried about our teens with not nice words, but it actually ended up being our junior campers that were actually just one, and it was an accident. He was talking in the chat. He was using a voice command on his computer, which you cannot control via Zoom, and it put a not nice word, a bad word, a cuss word, whatever you want to call it, up on the chat, and we could not get the chat to go away. So we noticed it, and I asked everybody, we took him out of the room because we didn't know how it happened at the time. That we found out later that that's how it happened. He didn't even know what the word meant, and definitely did not mean it. He was talking and another camper talked over him, and it combined the two words to make that word. Now, what are the chances of that happening? So I would say it was on his computer. They had it set up where you could chat verbally versus typing it in. So from there on, we asked people just to type in your chat. We learned the hard way, but we took him out and called the parent, talked to them, figured out what happened. They didn't even see it. And then we just kept the chat running where we got it to go off the screen, because there's no way to take it down, just so you know, when it's live, once it's live. So that's where we were, and that worked out. And we had some other technical issues, like I mentioned earlier, and our IT team was able to handle it by sending out our full-time. We have a number of full-time staff. Denise and I run the summer program. We utilize some of our other staff to help us pack and organize for the boxes, and also helped run some programs during summer camp that they would normally be counselors. So they ran some of the virtual programs for us, like some bingo nights and some game nights. And our IT staff, we had one main volunteer was in charge of that, and he literally helped us pick the platform and helped to set it up. We use Google Docs for all of our scheduling and to set the whole weeks up and to be able to send out all of the individualized links, the Zoom links. That's how we work that out. And then the main IT volunteer had the 3 IT interns, and they worked from the very end of May through the end of June to help us finish. So basically they worked 2 weeks before camp, the 2 weeks of camp, and the week following. We're right in the middle of June. And then of course us, and then we had, did we have about 8 IT per day, Denise?
We did. Our suggestion from our IT volunteer was that we have at least 8 volunteers that could man the fresh desk tickets and be able to problem solve for us. So when we switched to virtual, we sent a survey out to our volunteers to ask, what skill set they had to be able to do virtual camp. And so those who identified that they were IT specialists, we put them in those IT roles. And of course it varied because of their time availability. So we tried to have 8 per each activity that can help problem solve and work the fresh desk tickets.
And then I think there's another question.
Yeah, it says, how big were your camper groups each weekend day?
It varied depending upon the activity. As we said, we allowed them to sign up. We would have anywhere from 30, maybe, Denise?
Yeah, it would depend. Our teen week, we probably had about 60, 65 campers per session. And then for junior week, it was about 30 to 40. And again, it just would depend on what the activity was to who signed up for it. And then our volunteers for each activity session. During the day, it was much less. It was probably about 25 to 30 volunteers each session. And so some of those volunteers were also available for evening. And so our evening numbers with volunteers was much larger than it was for our daytime sessions.
I know we're running over. We have just a couple more slides we'll run through. These are those camper outcomes that we talked about earlier. So in order to meet our goals, we said acknowledge for an accomplishment by the end of the program, meaning the week they could be acknowledged for, their arts and crafts, for their cabin chat, for pretty much, we left it open so we could try to meet these goals. Participate in at least one new activity, live or recorded. Maybe they'd never done yoga before. Maybe they had never done the chalk art. So some of those, or some of the recorded things that we mentioned, completed a creative project or performance, participated, but these are just ideas. They may be work for you if you needed outcomes. This is just what we use. The joined in cabin chats, so that if they participated at all, that was counted. So we were able to meet most of these goals. The empathy, I think, is a little bit more difficult. We did have some, though, that did. Some that were helping each other with the IT issues and things like that. So they did meet. It's just a little more difficult. But we felt like we needed to leave that in. Want to go to the next one? And then this is just examples of our positive cabin chat, what we will call outcomes. It was after camp, we send out our survey to our parents, and this is the feedback that we received. I'll let y'all read those. You know, one of the nice one, cabin chat, was the highlight of the week. We had a lot of those. So we realized that, you know, the more we have to do this, the more we need more cabin chats, as I said earlier.
We could have probably just done cabin chat all week and had the same number of attendees.
Probably. So you can read that. Those are from, some of them are from the campers themselves and some of them are from the parents. You can pretty much tell who's who.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of y'all mentioned your virtual highlights. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to share with us, with you, with others, or if you had any questions?
So I have a question about the feedback sheet, the goal sheet that you gave the campers. Was that emailed out to them and they sent it back on email, or did you have like a time in the program set to fill that out and get them back immediately?
We always have the counselors fill this out. So, and we also ask questions in the survey to the parents.
Okay.
So this is not given to the campers themselves.
Okay.
We did send out a teen survey, and some of this was answered in there, but mostly the counselors always do this in person, and it was mostly from the counselors. So, and we probably didn't explain this properly. All of the campers were assigned a certain cabin, and those were their counselors. And they are the ones that filled this out for us post-camp. Normally during in-person camp, they would fill it out. We give it to them the beginning of the week, and it looks different, of course, for in-person, but they fill it out during camp. If we have to do it again, I think we'll do a hybrid of letting them know that we need this filled out, send it out to them, but if they get it to us after, that would be fine too. But all that's available. Y'all feel free to use anything if you need it. If you have any questions, contact us. I did not put that on our slides. Sorry about that. I think we might be, I'll type it in the chat.
And we have one more question, I think if we might have time for it, just asking about using the Zoom polling feature to get feedback. Did you guys utilize that at all?
We did not use that at all. I think we really didn't think about it a lot. We were just trying to get everything up and running, and that we would definitely do that. I think hindsight, do that after each session to get feedback immediately.
I know some of the cabin counselors did do a poll or two, but it was just more for fun stuff, yeah, like favorite color, you know, things like that, just more as conversation starters. But we did not use it officially. When we were planning for, we normally have over 200 teens and over 120 junior campers. So we were looking at, a lot of them had already pre-registered, and we were looking at these large numbers. So that sort of fell to the wayside, I'll be honest. This year, if we do it again, we're more prepared for sure.
Yeah, second time around will be easier.
Yeah, that's why we sent it out that's why we sent out our survey post to the parents and the teens.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Denise and Edith. That was chock full of information. I definitely enjoyed it. We got some clapping hands and this was awesome in the chat. So 2 things to take care of before you all sign off from the Zoom meeting. We all share our COCA exit poll in a second, but first, we want to get a screenshot of all of your beautiful faces since we aren't in person. So if you're still with us and you don't have your camera on and you want to turn it back on, that would be awesome. And we can smile and wave, and MJ will get some screenshots of
you guys
us.
are doing so good. Just keep your eyes open. All right. Thank y'all so much for that. I will go ahead and I will start the exit poll. This does count as our, survey as we do at normal COCA. So I'll let y'all go ahead and do that. If anybody has any final remarks while we wait on this, but thank y'all for coming.
And thank y'all so much. If you have any further questions or emails in the chat, you can contact us. Y'all have a great rest of the week.
Thank you guys.
Thank you everyone for tuning in.
All right, we do.